Warning, working with electricity is extremely dangerous. We sought professional advice for our electrical layout, everything from how it should be laid out to the gauges of wires. Any misstep in this can lead to serious injury and or death. So if you have no experience and are nervous about this part, please seek professional advice. Today may be our most shocking video yet.
That's right, we are working on our electrical system, and hopefully by the time the day is done, we will have power.
What, do I have stuff on my face?
Yeah, I have stuff on your face. Alright, let's electricity. Peace out.
We originally started working on our electrical a couple of weeks ago, but we ran into a couple of problems. So we had some questions about fitment with the bed frame inside of the back of the van. So we put down the electrical and built our bed frame. Then we didn't have all the cables that we needed because we do not have the capability to crimp anything over 10 gauge. With this in and able to take accurate measurements, we are back to working on the electrical. But we did film a little bit about us getting our batteries and explaining some battery stuff to you, and also opening the box of our major electrical components.
The first thing we have is batteries. Right now we have decided, or a couple months ago, we decided to purchase 3 100 amp hour Battleborn batteries, and we have them. We're going to put them in, although we're strongly debating putting in a fourth one, and we think we're going to lean towards doing that. So we went ahead and built in a fourth spot here for it, but for the meantime, we're going to get 3 of them hooked up and get that going.
There's a couple reasons why we went with Battleborn lithium batteries versus AGM or any other company's lithium batteries. AGM batteries, you can only run down to 50% of their capacity before you permanently damage them. Battleborn says that you can run these all the way to 0 and bring them all the way back with no damage. These batteries will last 3,000 to 5,000 cycles. So according to our calculations, should be about 8 to 10 years that these batteries will last in our van.
So this is the box of goodies. So this is all, other than the batteries, all the other big components for our electrical system. We have some other, there are tons and tons and tons of little parts that go into your electrical system. It's kind of maddening. Until I sat down and did it, I didn't realize there's so many little tiny parts that we would need. But in this box, we have lots of good stuff. So first thing is, this is a DC to DC converter, which is a battery to battery charger. So we are going to use basically our alternator and our battery from the van, and this will go, there'll be a cable run from the van battery to this, and then from this to our batteries to charge the batteries while we are driving down the road. Next up, we have an MPPT controller. This is what basically makes voltage from our solar panel. So the energy will come down from a solar panel. This will convert it to the proper voltage to charge our batteries, so that we'll be able to charge our batteries through our solar panels. The third thing we have here is our battery monitor. This is so we can basically monitor the status of our batteries in the van. This is the BMV 712 smart monitor. And then this big box down here is our
inverter.
It's an inverter converter. And we were debating between a 2,000 watt and a 3,000 watt. Decided to go with the 2,000 watt. We think that's plenty for what we will need. We don't plan to have a whole bunch of 120 volt items in the van. Probably just maybe 1 or 2 cooking items and our computers, and that's about it. So we have that. Then this is a smart dongle, which is a Bluetooth dongle that allows us to monitor our inverter converter. And then there is also a little fuse kit in here that will go between the batteries and the battery disconnect. I just went to pick up my cup and drink from it, and this little guy was there. I'm gonna help him outside.
It's a spider.
Yes, it is. Don't drink spiders. It's bad.
So the first thing that we're going to mount is our inverter charger. So this puppy actually weighs 25 pounds. So you're going to want to mount it on something that's pretty solid. We're going to be mounting it to the studs that are in the wall of the van in the back here. This is a 2000 watt inverter, but Battleborn recommends only running 1600 watts.
So over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a little bit of work on our different components here, trying to place them on the wall where we want them. So we do have a lot of stuff in place already. So we have decided to mount our inverter right here. We have our MPPT controller mounted as well, our positive and negative bus bars, our fuse box or 12 volt power distribution panel over here, and then you can see we've got some of the fuses, circuit breakers that for each of these items. So, and then we have our 4 batteries. So our goal for today is to get everything hooked up to the point where we can hook up to shore power. We will not be covering solar in this video. We'll be doing that in a later video when we put our solar panels up, and we won't be covering the battery to battery charger, which we'll also be putting in at a later point. But we just want to be able to plug into the house, check everything out, make sure it's working, and start using stuff. So the first thing we're going to work on this morning is we are going to work on getting our 120 volt panel installed. We decided to go with this Paneltronics panel. It's got a 30 amp main breaker and then 3 15 amp breakers that will be more than sufficient for the few electrical outlets that we have throughout the van.
Next up, we are installing hooking up our inverter charger. So that's going to go from that's going to supply power to our 120 distribution panel that we just hooked up. It'll also allow us to take in shore power and also go to our bus bar. Okay, so we have our inverter charger wired up. It wasn't too difficult, a little time consuming. Make sure you double check these if you're putting them in. So our AC feeder cables down here, so they don't go in the same order. Pay special attention to that. But all we have left to do is to put the panel on.
Okay, so like everything we do, it's taking a little longer than expected. We are definitely not going to finish this today. But we did get quite a bit done. We have ran some fuses here. We have most of our stuff hooked up to our negative bus bar. We have our BMV mounted over there for our battery monitoring. Yes, BMV for battery monitoring. So the problem we're running into right now is we need to mount a fuse, an A&L fuse, and our battery on-off switch over here, and we're going to do it on this wall. It's just our cables kind of aren't really working exactly how we'd like them to work. So the plan is we're going to install our battery to battery charger down here on this lower portion of the wall. We're actually having to run that underneath the van. We're not going to do that in this video, but we will run it under the van. It's going to come up through the floor into the battery monitor. So what we want to do is mount that fuse or that A&L fuse and the battery on-off switch or disconnect switch up here, but as you can see, we don't have anything there. So what we decided was we're going to cut a 10 by 20 board that we're going to put here, and it's going to raise our height a little bit so we have more space up here to mount that fuse and disconnect switch, and hopefully that will work.
Good dreary morning. We have already gone to Home Depot once for some hardware. We cut out our board yesterday, like we said, so we can have a little bit of extra space for our battery cutoff switch. Not quite sure if that's going to work, but fingers crossed it will. Okay, so this is the board that I've been talking about. Still need to secure it to the battery box frame, but I think it's actually going to work. Now it's time for the part that really makes me nervous. It should make you nervous too. If you're not nervous and don't have a healthy respect for electricity, then I guess you're not nervous. But now we're going to hook up the batteries, and hopefully after that we'll be able to fire this bad boy up and check out some of our basic things. Yesterday we finished up wiring our batteries, but we left a couple of things out that we really should have put on the batteries while we were connecting the batteries. So our Victron 712 voltage battery monitor BMV, Should have put that on, and our smart dongle as well. So we are going to do that now.
So we've already installed one fuse 12 volt power distribution panel. Jed yells at me when I don't say 12 volt power distribution channel.
Oh, yell at you.
Wait, yeah. 12 volt power distribution panel. So anyway, we're actually doing one on each side of the van. That way we don't have to run all the wires for anything 12 volt all the way to the other side. We just have to have this one set of wires that run through here. So that's what we're doing right now. We've ran these wires across, and we are just hooking up the second 12 volt power distribution panel that will basically give us power for anything that's located along this side, primarily the kitchen. Okay, so everything is hooked up.
We're a little nervous.
We're a lot nervous about this. So we actually, when we hooked up the dongle and we hooked up the BMV, we're actually able to pick them up on the apps on our phones. We're getting good reading from our battery. We have like 13.3 volts. So now we're about to hit the main battery disconnect switch and turn it on. Hit a couple of our breakers and see if we have some lights, if our fans are working, all that kind of good stuff.
In the meantime, I do have a Class C fire extinguisher here for electrical issues.
Just in case.
Just in case.
But are we ready for the first switch? I have a quick escape back here, I think. So nervous. Okay. So far, so good. That went well. Okay. So now we have our batteries turned on. What do we got there for voltage?
13.33.
Okay. So I'm going to flip the first breaker. We have a light. All right, let's try something else, like a fan.
It's working.
Okay, so the next thing we are turning on is our inverter charger. We're going to turn it on without hooking it up to any shore power, just so we can make sure that it is working properly to all of our outlets. I always get nervous. Okay, so it's turned on. It's showing a green light on the inverter. And then also our little light over here on our 120 volt panel popped on. So that means we're actually getting power to the 120 volt panel. So far, so good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is turn on our main 30 amp breaker for the inside. Seems to have went well. Didn't trip or anything like that. And then we're going to test these one at a time, I think. And then... So this first one says accessory, but that is actually our plug back here in the back garage area. So we're going to turn that on. Got a green light. This is our handy phone tester. Hold on. And we're just making sure that it's basically turning on and starting to charge the phone. So here we go. Oh. So that was the GFCI. I just hit reset. We got a little green light, so it means it is on. And we are charging.
Looks like we have power. So we know that everything works off of our inverter and our batteries. So our next and final step is to actually plug it in and see if the batteries charge. And
From shore power.
From shore power.
So we don't have 30 amp hookup at our house, obviously. So we just have a little connector here. I hope it works. Oh, that's different. This doesn't work. It's not the right one.
Correct dog bone take 2.
After a little excursion to Camping World, because that was pretty much the only place that sells camping stuff that is open at like 4:30 on a Sunday. Yay! So there are 3 different switches. There is the off button. there is one where you turn it to inverter, and then there's a charger only. We put it to the inverter position, so it should switch as needed. It should charge the batteries as needed, and then we can use the inverter in that position.
Well, our inverter charger is doing its charging thing, which is pretty good. So looking at the app right now, the voltage of our batteries is 14. It's being charged by the system right now. Everything's looking good so far. This is why we built most of it out of wood. We've done a lot of knocking on it lately. So I'm glad this actually did not turn out to be the most shocking video ever.
No, it did not. That is good.
But everything is working as expected, except for one thing. The Nature's Head toilet fan.
Oh, yeah. So we'll check that out tomorrow. We're going to wrap it up for the night, but our Nature's Head toilet fan isn't turning on. Maybe, it was labeled positive, but I'm just going to switch the wires and make sure it's not a polarity thing. And if it's still not working, then we'll just check the cable, make sure it's got good continuity through the cable. And if that doesn't work, we'll message Nature's Head and try to get a replacement fan.
Yeah, it could be it could be a bad fan.
So,
but
yeah.
Anyway.
But if that is the only thing that's not working out of all of this, I'm like the happiest person on the face of the planet.
Yeah. No, this is a culmination of, and has to be one of the most nerve-wracking portions of the van build thus far. But
just, so many hours of, trying to figure out how to do everything, how to wire everything, purchasing and figuring out what little parts you need to put everything together. I'm so thankful it's done.
All right, guys, so keep in mind what we said at the beginning of the video. If you do not feel comfortable doing this, or you do not have electrical knowledge, either A, make yourself a lot smarter really quickly, or...
Yeah, by all means, research it and try to put it together, but have somebody check it out. And when it's time to do it, if you don't feel comfortable, there is no shame in having someone do it for you.
Yeah, if you have any questions whatsoever, stop what you're doing and seek expert advice.
All right, so hopefully you like how our electrical system came together, because we do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video.
And make a shocking comment below.
Yes, we need some shocking comments.
All right, guys, that does it for this video. And until next time, stay wonderful.
Call it a day.